Has justice finally been served in the Rogel Aguilera-Mederos case now that his sentence has been commuted from 110 years down to 10 years? Let's talk about it today on The Lawyer You Know. Thanks for being with us. We got word last week that the governor has stepped in an unbelievably swift move to commute Mr. Mederos' sentence from 110 years down to 10 years, and it's not even that bad. He actually has parole eligibility at the end of 2026. So his sentence in prison can be as little as 4 years. Do you all agree with this new, much lower, much less harsh sentence for what this semi-truck driver did? We broke down the facts of the case in the last video, but I want to know in the comments. Most of you thought 110 years was way too harsh. Some of you did not, because 4 lives were lost due to his negligence. Well, now it's 1 year per life lost potentially for Mr. Mederos to get out of prison. Now, the way the governor moved with this move is so incredibly unprecedented because they did not even wait for the appellate process to take place. Not just the appellate process, but also just the motion for reconsideration of the sentence. That hearing was not even had in front of the trial judge before the governor stepped in and used their power to commute this sentence. It is crazy. This type of action to me is so surprising. While I do think it was justified to go from 110 maybe down to somewhere around 10 years, 4 years seems about as light as anybody would discuss in this case, in my opinion, because of the lives lost and the damage done. But there is somebody who may not be that surprising to you, is very angry about this and said they will release more information about this case that they were not able to release while the case was still pending, and that's the prosecutor's office. They looked like the bad guys in all of this. They looked like they were overreaching, overbearing, overly harsh, punishing too harshly for the crime, not picking a sentence that fit the crime. The governor is stepping out here and by commuting this sentence basically saying, I believe what the defendant said. I believe it was an accident. I believe the brakes failed. I believe the defendant could not have done anything to prevent this accident, basically, is what the governor is coming out and saying. And the prosecutors, on the other hand, are saying, no, this is so much worse than, well, it could have happened to anybody. The defendant's decision-making, the defendant's actions caused this to happen. People died, people were injured, and now we're dealing with the grieving families. They're just starting to wrap their arms around what happened, and now they have to deal with this. Now they have to deal with the governor stepping in and saying, no, it's not 110 years. It's going to be 10 years, actually, maybe only 4 years before he's out on parole. So now the prosecutor's office is seemingly angry. They're dealing with the victims. They're dealing with the questions. And the governor has potentially just taken this out of the court's hands. It's unclear, and both sides are kind of arguing whether or not there is an appellate process at this point, whether or not they're going to continue with that hearing on whether or not this sentence should be reconsidered, on whether or not they need to file any appeals, or if it's just over at this point. And my guess is the defense isn't going to file any appeals if they're looking at a 4-year sentence with parole, because they were probably, and this indicates, because a lot of us talked about it in the comments, was there any plea negotiations? What was the offer? Well, it seems like the defense would have been willing to take some kind of offer of 4 years with possibility of parole, or 10 years likely to get out after 4. It seems like the defense would have at least thought about that kind of a plea deal. Take responsibility for what he did. Take responsibility for the lives being lost, but not ending his life in prison. Prosecutors, on the other hand, seem like they would never have offered a deal like this, and they are going to release more damning information. When the defense attorneys were asked what that information could be, neither of them had any idea, but they both said it was sour grapes. Nothing the prosecutors say now is going to change this. They can't circumvent the governor's ruling. The reason this is so unprecedented and that we don't actually know what's going to happen is because it's very unusual for a governor to step in before all of the appeals have been exhausted, which makes sense. Because the governor stepping in granting clemency is only supposed to be a last resort after all of the appellate processes are exhausted. So we'll see if maybe the state's going to file some kind of motion saying this was untimely, the governor can't do this, they overstepped their bounds. I don't think that's going to be successful, but they may try to file something like that and make this defendant go through the appellate process. Once they're all denied, once he loses all the appeals, then maybe this could happen. Or if some miscarriage of justice has occurred in this trial or in this case, maybe he'll get an appeal granted. Maybe he'll win an appeal. That's why the justice system is set up this way. because I don't like the precedent that this sends, that maybe there are no rules. Maybe the governor can just step in after every conviction. If it gets a lot of hits on YouTube or Twitter or TikTok, the governor's going to step in and make a change. Make no mistake, social media is affecting the way things happen in court today, the way law enforcement handles things, the way prosecutors handle things, the way judges handle things, the way lawyers handle things, and the way politicians handle things. We saw it with Gabby Petito and some other cases, and now we're seeing it here, where social media has exploded with this miscarriage of justice and this unjust sentence. They've exploded. And the governor saw what happened. The governor stepped in, and the governor gained a lot of fans by making this move, in my opinion. So, whether or not you agree with the sentence and what the governor did, do you think it was too soon, or do you think it was the right timing? Let me know in the comments below. And I can understand arguments for either side. I can understand it being too soon, not really the way it's supposed to be set up for the governor to step in or for a politician to step in, because the entire appellate process is not taking place yet. And is that fair to all the other defendants that have to go through the appeals process? That's how it's supposed to work. But I can also see people saying it's just right. Because is he now going to have to sit there in prison for years and years and years as he goes through the appellate process? It may take more than 4 years just to exhaust all the appeals. So he may sit in prison longer than the governor thinks is even an appropriate sentence. I don't love one branch of government stepping over into another and just totally bypassing all the rules and procedures in place. I don't love that as a lawyer. And while I agree that that 110-year sentence was too harsh, I'm not sure that the timing and the process used by a political figure in this case was appropriate. And one of the last questions we have is, what is the defendant saying? What's his reaction? And as you can imagine, he's shocked. He's thankful, not just to the governor, but also to the court of public opinion, who really had a huge hand in pushing this case to change his sentence this quickly in such an unprecedented manner. But what I really want to do is hear from you all, the voting people of these states that vote governors in office and vote governors out of office. Do you think this was the right move, or do you have a problem with it? That's what I really want to know with this vote of too soon or just right. Hopefully you guys learned something today throughout this process, how this works, what could potentially happen in the future. Hopefully you liked it, and if so, give us a like on the video because it brings other eyes to our video, and make sure you subscribe to our page if you enjoy this content and want to see more of it. But for now, that's all we've got. Until next time. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.